If you understand what's happening in your still, you already have a basic idea of what is chemistry. Hey everybody, Distiller Greyling here, one of your favorite home and hobby distillers. Most people think chemistry is about formulas and exams, but chemistry is really just about how stuff change. It's about how sugar gets converted to alcohol, or how a liquid turns into vapor and then cools down and turns back into a liquid again. It's how we observe the smell and the taste and the temperature and time of our runs. A home distillery is basically like a small science lab. And we need to know that just as in a lab, there's safety. We tend to say that in labs there are rules, and distilling is no different. So safety isn't something that needs to be feared. It's about professionalism. It's about knowing your setup, knowing what you can do and what not, when it's safe to touch something and not. In labs we don't eat, and we wear our goggles, and we tend to clean up after ourselves, and we have to have that same mindset for distilling. Keep your area neat, keep it safe, protect your eyes when you need to, protect your hands when you need to. Know your still, know when you can push something and whatnot. Keep it safe. If you do a fermentation and your pH, your measurements is wrong, it will tend to lead to off taste. If you have an extremely good run and you didn't take down that good notes, you might not be able to repeat that success again. So distilling in a way is bringing all that chemistry and laboratory aspects all together. Good science is having that repeatable results. We want to do something and we want to keep on doing it consistently and repeat it, and every time just improve it a little bit better, improve it a little bit more, and that's how we really get good and constant quality results. Let's look at the equipment that we have here today. So I've got my triple scale hydrometer. This is what I use to measure sugar, just for fermentation. It's an instrument that you use just like any other lab. My alcohol meter I use for accuracy when I do during my run, when I put it in the parrot, or after a run when I measure of what I did at the end of the day. How accurate did I distill, and what is my recovery rate at the end of the day. Temperature, just as important, not just for distilling, but for fermentation as well. Running something too hot can lead to better off-taste flavors. Running it too cold will stall your whole fermentation. In your distillation, when you run, that's why I have got my temperature, my thermometers, when I have it right on top with the reflux condenser or in the limbic head, constantly keeping an eye on that temperatures as I distill, and my notebook writing everything down. I can go back from my first distillation that I did, and I can see exactly how I did that run. And then I repeated that run 4 times, and I can see how I change it, and how I tend to write down less, but I just write the important stuff. And that's true. pH, just as important, especially in fermentation. Knowing what to do, when to add citric acid or when to add potassium carbonate in your fermentation to either increase or lower that pH to get it exactly where you want it. So if you look at all of this, and you would think of, how we said that, you would heat it up, liquid to vapor, vapor back to liquid, we bring it back to chemistry. What's happening inside here? We've got that phase change, that moment when the liquid turns into a vapor, and that vapor goes all the way back to the condenser, and what happens again? It changes phase again. It condenses back from the vapor into a liquid. So you've got your basic chemistry right here in your still, and it's all to do with boiling points. It's knowing where that boiling point is, where ethanol will become a vapor first and the water still stays a little bit behind, and that ethanol vapor is what we want. That's the alcohol that we want at the end of the day. It's that separation of mixtures inside your still, and that's the main thing. We're not creating alcohol in the still, we're just separating that what's already there. We make the alcohol from a fermentation. We have the sugar and the yeast eats the sugar, makes the alcohol and the CO2, and you remember that bad and off taste smells that we talked about in the previous video? That's exactly it. Fermentation, we make the alcohol, but in the still we strip it, we separate those two like liquids. Let's talk about phase change. Let's have it in a more practical demonstration. What happens during a phase change? So we have our heat source, our energy, whether it's now electrical or gas, it doesn't matter. You have that heat source where you've charged your boiler with liquid and you're starting to heat that liquid up. So now what happens is your molecules in that liquid starts to move faster and faster and faster. And as they move faster, they're trying to push and escape and turn into a vapor. And that's the point where it happens phase change. And now you have that vapor in your still. It goes around back to the condenser, and what happens again? You cool that. You cool the vapor down. So what happens is that fast molecules now start to move slow again and slow, and then boom, phase change again, back into a liquid. So it's that the whole time phase changing from a liquid to a vapor, back from a vapor to a liquid, that's happening in your still. If we tend to think of it in a real life example, in the winter months, you go take a hot shower, you crank up that heat and you've got that steam in the whole bathroom, you can't even see yourself in the mirror. And when you're done showering and you close all the waters and you step out and look yourself in the mirror, it's all fogged up. What happened there? It's that cool mirror itself, the glass, that has cooled down, has slowed down the molecule, the vapors, the steam molecules, and has started to condense. And if you run your finger down that mirror, you can actually see the condensate running down. Change it up. Let's take it to summer. In the heat of summer, when you're so hot and you just want to drink something ice cold, make yourself a nice lemonade full of ice and you leave it standing on the table. What will happen? You will start to see condensate forming on the side of the glass. Exactly the same is happening. You got vapor, air around you, and you got moisture of water vapor molecules in the air. And they will tend to go to that cooler place and slow down the molecules until they change phase again from a vapor to a liquid and forms condensation. Same as the mirror. If you run your finger down the glass, you would see the condensate running down. That's just basically the same how your still works, but we just control it. We control the heat and we control the way how we condense our liquid, the vapor, back to a liquid. pH, just as important. pH tells us how friendly or volatile environment is. We tend to say 7, a pH of 7 is neutral. Anything higher up to 14 is alkaline, and then from 7 anything down to 0 is more acidic. So a fermentation, strange enough, likes a more acidic environment. Anything from 5 to 4 down, fermentations love that. That also actually gets another plus point where the pH, because it's so acidic, it also prevents certain bacteria to grow. So if you see you start to get bacterial growth in your fermentation, it means the pH is also a little bit too high. Bring that pH down again. But if we talk about pHs and the different types of high, neutral and low, why is it so important? And why especially is it important for labs? Let's think of growth, agriculture, plants, and let's say hydroponics lab. You got that water or the plants the whole time in the water, and that pH needs to be correct. Too high pH, plants might not like that. Too low pH, the plants might not like that as well. So you need to constantly measure your pH and correct it using different types of products, to either pick up or lower the pH depending on what it is. Then you go to pharmaceutical environment. Pharmaceutical labs as well, they need to constantly check the pHs when products are made. When a product is made and it gets sent back to the lab and it's tested for pH, that can also be an indication of, are you making an off product or not. Brewing beer, the same thing. When you do your fermentation, when you're brewing your beer, you check the pHs. And then we take it to an environmental side, testing ground. They take soil samples and test the soil for pHs as well. So pH is very important in labs, just as important is for distilling as well. If you can read a pH strip like this, you're already doing lab work, and it's easy to go and work in a lab if you really feel like that's something you want to do. Temperature, just as important as well. Let's talk about vapor pressure. So when you've got a liquid, any liquid, whether it's in a still or in a kettle or in a pot, and you start to heat it up, you will tend to heat that temperature, and that energy will go into the liquid. So what happens is that energy will start to move the molecules faster. Now we were talking about moving these molecules faster, but what actually happens when there is a phase change? It's that molecules tend to move all around faster and faster as it heats up, but it wants to have space. But now you have got your atmospheric pressure that pushes down, and that liquid vapor pressure is like pushing around, but your atmospheric pressure is still pushing it down, keeping it a liquid. The moment when that vapor liquid pressure overcomes the atmospheric pressure, boom, vapor escapes into the atmosphere and you have a phase change. And that happens more or less for water at 100 degrees Celsius at sea level. For your alcohol products, it's slightly lower. And that's the difference, knowing that boiling points, you can then start to control your still, start to control of how substances are separated. And that's why temperatures are so important. And that's how you also can get fractional distillation or fractional separation. We have different types of plates, and each plate will have some type of a collection tube that you can open or close, and you can take off fractions when that still is running now and being stabilized. That's how you take crude oil and you heat it up and you put it in a fractionating column or a fractionating distillation column, and you get different substances. The light ones on top, your jet fuels, your gasoline, and then your diesels, and you get all the way down to your tars and your thick oils here at the bottom. And that's the same way how pharmaceuticals work as well. You have a substance and you put it in the fractionating stills, and different fractions will give you different smells, different flavors. And they will extract it at that different fractions or sections and then make that type of perfume that they want. So if we think about it, these are skills, knowing temperatures and boiling points and pHs. And these are skills that are being used in real careers, not just in fermentation and distillation. So you don't need to be a genius to be a scientist. You just need to have that curiosity and that consistency. Keep on experimenting, keep on doing something, and make that results repeatable. And then as you can repeat that results, you can start to improve. And once you improve, that's where the real magic happens. That's where the breakthrough comes. And then you can have that aha moments of, this is awesome. And this is what's really nice about science and chemistry and lab work. So if this has made sense to you, you will see that chemistry is not that scary at all, and is already part of your life. Whether you're distilling or just boiling water for having coffee, you're already having that sense of chemistry, understanding how things work, how molecules move, what's the importance of pHs. You can use this now, this basic chemistry concepts that you can make from distilling to do future product development. Make that product consistency and getting better distilling decisions. You can make that awesome product just by doing small increment changes until you have it. And if you note it down, you can always repeat it. Tomorrow, a year, 2 years from now, and you can just take your notes and you can make the exact same product. So next time we will use the skills that we've learned and we'll develop a flavor, not just do a run. We'll actually make something that makes sense, that you can practically see how it's done just using basic chemistry and a still like this. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. This is my take on chemistry and lab for basic home distilling. If you feel you got something else, please pop it in the comment. If you got something else that you want to add into, yes, please feel free to put it in there. Give me a like and subscribe if you have not. As always, guys, remember to be awesome, to be kind, and be yourself. Cheers.